In InDesign, I'm often asked, when do you use a hard return and when do you use a soft return? And first we have to understand what one is over the other. A hard return is, and I do have my hidden characters on, a hard return is when you simply hit the return key to move down to the next line. Now return and enter are not the same thing. Enter actually is either a page or a column break. So we're talking the return, not the enter key. So you can see in these paragraphs, a hard return has been used after each of these sentences, so to speak. Now, if you can manage to think ahead when you're typesetting stuff in Word, and if all of these things share pretty much the same look, one paragraph after another, or one sentence after another, and you aren't requiring any additional spacing between these, then I might use a soft return. Now, a soft return, let me zoom in so we can see. Basically, a hard return says, hey, start a new paragraph. A soft return says, don't start a new paragraph, start a new line. Break this to the next line without starting a new paragraph. Okay? So if I highlight this hard return and I hold down Shift and Return, it does a soft return. Okay? And so sometimes I will typeset knowing that all of these things are going to be alike. I don't want any additional spacing after any of these paragraphs. I might want one at the very end of this. This is really useful if you're trying to get one space after this whole big bunch of type. But I'm holding down Shift and Return to get these soft returns in here. And I'm also going to show you why this is useful in regards to paragraph spacing. Spaces before and after paragraphs. Okay, so I'm going to do it just on the items prior to the words for crackers. So this is for the dressing. All right. So, for dressing is its own paragraph, and then 3 medium garlic cloves is the beginning of a new paragraph, and the end of that paragraph is all the way down to the word parmesan, or parmesan, depending on how you pronounce it. For the crackers is a whole new paragraph. That's why there's a paragraph symbol there. Now, what benefit is this to us? Well, let's say if I brought this in and I'm just going to mess up some type here. Let's say this came in as Comic Sans, God forbid. And it came in from Word that way. But I already made this Arial regular 9/12, and I did go ahead and make a paragraph style after it. Now watch what happens when I bring up paragraph styles. I'm going to create so this already has a paragraph style. I've already created it. We already know how to do that. Now, because it has a soft return, what I can do is I can just click down into the next part of the paragraph. It doesn't even have to be the whole thing. This is all one paragraph now, right here. But if I click down that next part, I can just take off the plus sign on all of these. Actually, I may have to just drag the whole thing. Let's do. How many clicks does it take to grab a paragraph? 1, 2, 3. How about 4? Whoa, let me not. Well, we know what happens when you do 5 clicks quickly. That's the whole story. 4 quick clicks gives you a paragraph. John, you're turning red. Okay, you'll see there's a plus sign there. I just say, hey, no plus sign, and it automatically makes them all a paragraph. Now you're going, so what? That's what paragraphs, if I made them all paragraphs instead of a soft return, so what? It works the same way. Yeah, it kind of does. Here's the difference. What if I wanted some space between the dressing ingredients and the word for crackers? Now all I have to do is double click on this and go to indent spacing and say, hey, give me a space after that. What is going on here? I must have hit Command Z, excuse me. Let me cancel that. Make sure I'm on the right page here. I think it went to a different page. Let me just zoom out and see where I am. Okay. Yeah, it went up to page 1. So I'm just Problem with doing this on page 4 is it has reflow issues from previous pages, so this may look a little wonky. But if I go in here and I double click on it and I say, hey, in the paragraph spacing, add a little bit of space after this paragraph. Now, you'll notice that all of a sudden this copy is not what I was working on. What? Where'd it go? Let me go find that copy. There it is. It moved. Now, it moved because why? Well, because I'm on previous pages. I'm on a later page, and I'm trying to play around with paragraph styling. And I should start at the beginning of the document, not in the middle of the document. So this is creating problems. But we will see, assuming that this is correct, we will see that this paragraph has a little bit of space after it. That's weird. It's actually doing it before. Oh no, this is getting crazy. Now, I've just shared with you why we don't start working on something in the middle of a document. Okay, so I'm going to cancel this. Whoa, that's crazy. I'm going to hit Command Z a few times and get back to where we were. When you guys are modifying characters or excuse me, paragraph styles, make sure you actually are at the beginning of the document so that the reflow doesn't go crazy on you. So I'm going to do the right thing, and I'm going to do Shift Return on each one of these. You guys just learned something really important. Don't go willy-nilly into the document and in 3 pages in and start editing things. Start from the beginning and then work your way through. So I'm hitting Shift Return for these soft returns. Oops, the last one is just a regular return. And this is still body copy, but it has the plus sign, so I say, hey, no plus sign, please. Now when I double click on this, it's assuming I do a soft return. When I do my space after or before, it only affects the space before or after that entire paragraph. It doesn't affect every single line. The reason why it doesn't affect every single line is because these are not individual paragraphs. This whole bunch of business right here is one paragraph. So it's adding a space after it here. Now, if we investigate further into the document where I have not applied soft returns, you will see other issues happening. It automatically puts space after stuff. Ah, darn it. Well, I've used the same paragraph style for the ingredients as I have for the directions. And if they look nearly the same, but something's a little different, and I don't want to put soft returns in here because these are actually new paragraphs, especially if I want to indent a paragraph or something. I may duplicate this paragraph style, body ingredients list body copy copy. Let's change the name of that. Let's call this directions copy. Directions body copy. And I'm going to go to paragraph spacing, indents and spacing, and I'm going to make the space after 0. Now it's not going to do a whole lot here yet. I'm going to make the space before 0. Now until I apply this and tell it is directions body copy, then it's not going to do anything. So it was still listed as ingredients list. So this all has to be that newly copied directions. Now, if you're having a hard time seeing between paragraphs and figure out where one starts and stops, you can edit the paragraph style, go to indents and spacing, and maybe you put a first line indent to tell it where, this will let you know where that paragraph starts. That's a first line indent. So we're creating a little bit of visual hierarchy that way. Now, the only problem I'm going to run into now is every single page of this document I now have to reapply some of these paragraph styles to it, and I'm going to say, okay, you are ingredients list body copy. Well, why isn't it taking that space out? Because these are all hard returns. And a hard return means that start a new paragraph, and this has a space after it. So I have to put in soft returns. Now, usually soft returns are something that I don't do a whole lot of. If you're newer to this, if you're newer to InDesign and it's just confusing, don't use them. Don't use soft returns if it's just too confusing. But now this is all one paragraph. There is no space after each of these lines because they are no longer each a paragraph. And I can tell him he is the directions. Okay. So hard returns versus soft returns. Again, soft returns we use for basically listed items that all look the same in formatting and that we might not want to adjust a huge amount of space between them. But yet, after the listed items, we might want a little space after or before them to separate them from the other stuff typographically. So when we do soft returns, this all becomes one paragraph. So if you're fighting with spacing, like spaces after or before paragraphs, you may have to do soft returns on some of your things. Okay? So that's the difference between hard and soft returns.